If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, Innkeeper, and this is your live calling talk show all about the Wheel of Time. And we're back. I did take last week off, just because, not because it was Valentine's Day, but it did turn out that it was also Valentine's Day that Wednesday. But, you know, I think I needed a break anyways. But I was like, hey, let's dig back in. You know, we don't have much in terms of Season 3 news, other than the fact that you may have seen certain snippets of Instagram reels and photos that the cast are putting that they're in South Africa filming. But we're not going to talk about that today. Tonight is all about Logain Ablar, one of my favorite characters, but something that I've been wanting to dig into with one of our character deep dives. So this is going to be full book spoilers. I will put that up in a second. And we're going to talk about Logain from the books. We might, towards the end, maybe talk about, you know, Álvaro Morte and his portrayal of Logain. But I think we might not have time for that. I think we'll mainly talk about Logain from the books. So without further ado, let me welcome two of my guests who are both first-time guests on the Dusty Wheel. First, random Nomen, Daniel, thank you for being here. And we also have Brad from Who's Taking Watch, a new YouTube channel that is doing their, which is D&D. I need to get this right because I'm not a D&D expert.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. D&D about the Wheel of Time. That's what I'm going to say for now.
Crushed it. Nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you both for being here, because we're going to talk a little bit about that first. So before I ask you what is D&D and what is Who's Taking Watch and all of that, let me show you guys this trailer that these guys put out for their first arc, The Dragon's Might. So enjoy this.
The Wheel of Time turns. In the country of Ghealdanin, 4 wanderers are blown together by the ice-cold winds of civil war. What hero's journey might the pattern weave on their noble path?
Get a load of these ones.
My name is Dirk, son of Nunya, son of business.
11 brothers and sisters. I'm very well versed in secrets.
You expect me to tell you my life story when I've barely known you 3 days?
We did nothing wrong. Really.
We killed someone.
We? That's a very generous use of the word we. What are we going to do against the army of the false dragon?
He'll have nothing to fear from us just so long as he should walk in the light.
Tal, get away! Trolloc! And I'll just charge.
Where you just hear like a inside of your mind.
So you guys are making your way to...
This is gonna go so poorly.
Natural 20.
That is a natural 20.
Oh god.
We don't need certainty. We just need a night.
You
friggin' die.
What is happening?
Oh, we're so far off the rails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get back on track as we turn the page and begin the first chapter of Who's Taking Watch? Dragon's Might.
Do you think the Dark One could be watching us?
All right. Awesome trailer. I swear
Very
when
cool, very cool.
The first time I watched this, I was like, "Whoa, this is like I always think I should be into D&D, but this was like, hey, this is the sort of thing that I can watch because I can never find the time to play D&D. So Daniel here also is a game master for the Knights Who Say Chill. So I was like, who better to have on to talk Logain? Well, we'll get to Logain. That's what we are here to talk about. But let's talk a little bit about Brent. Tell us about how this came to be. Maybe Wheel of Time and how that came into your life and how you then decided, hey, why not sit down with a bunch of friends and play a campaign with Wheel of Time?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like growing up, reading fantasy was everything for me, but it was basically just like, your real canon classics, your C.S. Lewis, your Tolkien. And then my good buddy Chris, who will be watching this at some point, thanks Chris, put me onto this series, and it took a good 2.5, 3 years of my life to finish these books, but I was just entranced, and so I've been a fan of the series for entirely too long when I really put a number on it at this point. A few years ago, my buddies that I was already playing D&D with, my good pal Victor said, I think we should start a podcast. But we're all just, folks who don't have much of an online presence or anything like that. So we thought, okay, well, if there's something that people would want to see, maybe it's telling stories in existing worlds of fiction, but on the outside, there's plot that we see, but there's a whole world around that. And so immediately the first thing that I thought was we had to go with the biggest expansive world that I could think of, which was the world of the Wheel of Time, and we ran with that. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Before I ask you more stuff, I don't know if you saw this, but people like what they're seeing in your background there. Somebody tells me Brad is into music. Call me Shamil, that guitar wall. Minotaur, nice finger exercise equipment. So thank you, Banshee, for putting the link to your channel on.
Oh yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So Danny, how long have you been playing D&D?
Well, I was thinking about that before when I was getting ready for today, and it suddenly struck me that I've been playing D&D longer than I've been a Wheel of Time fan.
Okay.
One of my friends in '97 that I was playing D&D with gave me the first book, Eye of the World. So I've been playing D&D at that point for 3 or 4 years before that. So a little bit longer than Wheel of Time. So a while now. But he actually also had a notebook of names that he said, he goes, here's all the names of the characters, and this is what you're gonna have to do. So I almost didn't read the book because he had a notebook of names. I was like,
right.
But I still should read this. He's like, oh yeah, it's amazing. You got to do it. So yeah.
In very D&D fashion, the book of names. I think names are important. So for a second, let's talk about how long have you been game mastering your current campaign arc? I don't know what you call on the Knights Who Say Chill. Is that Wheel of Time or no?
No, it's a homebrew. I made my own world for it. I'm not as brave as Brad. That's one of the fears. I think there's a lot of settings that you can kind of jump into existing, and it's something we can talk about. But it's having your own world and your own sandbox to run around in is a lot less nerve-wracking. So you can just be like, oh, that's over there. I don't have to worry about that, and I don't have to worry about who's in this city at this time. So no, I think we started as a one-shot because. Critter and Winespring and Tavern, who do the Wheel and Chill show. Tavern is an experienced player. Winespring had never played. Critter had played just a few times, so we have a wide range of experience. And then we brought in Jessica Sadai, Obviously, for specific reasons, I wanted to include her.
Yep.
And Dana Lou, or Zool, she came in as another experienced player.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of came in and we did like a one shot that turned into like a 3 or 4 time mini series. And when we got done, everybody liked it so much they wanted to keep going. So I think that was mid last year, I think.
Okay.
So I think but we go about once a month is when we play. So
okay, awesome.
With some delays in between there.
Right. Of course.
The classic D&D experience.
Right.
Yeah. You can't have a regular schedule.
Absolutely not. Rescheduling.
When I first met people who were like, "Oh, D&D," and I had like always known about it, but in the last few years, more and more people in the Wheel of Time community were like, "Hey, D&D is awesome. We play. It's a lot of fun." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I want in. This sounds cool." And they're like, "Oh, so yeah, it's like do you have 4 hours on these dates for this many many months?" And I was like, no. And so I never really got to play. So how are you planning your arc for the Dragon's Might? And tell us a little bit about the setting. How is it related to, as much as you want to, obviously,
no, for sure,
without giving things away.
Yeah. I mean, so the whole arc, fortunately for me and stress reducing, is all recorded at this point. So I'm just editing and uploading
nice.
now.
Yeah.
But we pretty consistently played about once a week, recorded them. And then I was like, no problem. I'll be able to edit these and get these up in the next 3-4 months. We're now about a year and a half later and it's finally getting up.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, it's what a Herculean effort on top of maintaining a normal life.
Right.
But yeah, so part of the reason that I really was drawn to the setting of the Randlands and all that was there's pockets of the world that don't get really visited much at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought there's a couple of places that are not super explored that seem cool. Would be like Saldia, and the other one is Ghealdanin, because outside of the whole episode with the Prophet, you don't see too much of that.
Before you go on, I forgot to put this on. Full book spoilers, everyone.
Yes.
We're full book spoilers. So
very big reason why I said Prophet specifically.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So it was actually, and I know we're not going show based, but as the briefest excursus.
Yeah.
That first part where you see sort of Logain's conquest of Ghealdanin in Johanna, that was the whole thing that got me thinking that could be the pocket that we explore, because you only ever meet Logain in the series after he's been defeated, but he had this whole earth-altering or political uproar, and so I thought, what would it be like to be living in that period of time before all of the events of the story that we love really become public knowledge? So yeah, we set our little adventure in the winter in Ghealdanin that directly precedes the start of the Eye of the World.
Wow. Now I know there was a winter before the Eye of the World started. I guess there were seasons that changed. But that's I started watching I think I've seen most of your first episode, and I was like, this is the sort of thing where you have, I think Winter's Lady is saying that in chat here. So it's a what fan film. I mean, it's basically fan fiction, but playing, and it's just clearly the fact that there's a group of people having fun, and then you obviously spent time editing and putting together a product. That's really cool. Especially
has everybody in the group read those series?
So not the series. I couldn't in good conscience ask everyone to read 14 books.
14 books.
But I did get everyone to read the first book, and what was cool was seeing one of my friends had made it already at that point halfway through the series, but seeing afterwards, after we had been playing, people had read the first book, which was their homework,
right?
But then have been, and my buddy Marty's going, I'm just listening to the series as I renovate my house. Like, that's all I'm listening to. So, seeing my friends catch the bug too has been very fun.
Yeah.
But also was very useful in terms of preventing them from having all of this huge knowledge of the world and spoilers of what happens later, because their characters wouldn't know it either. So kind of worked out well.
Yeah. They've probably watched the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
At the very least, the first season. But yes, we've all been checking in about the show.
Yeah. So I mean, that's. I think having your game master be someone who's read all the books obviously gives, understanding of the world. But I mean, you're playing a game, so I'm sure there are metaphysical things that you're not as careful about as you need to be.
Oh, absolutely. There are moments when I'm going off on tangents, and then I'm watching it back on video. I'm going, that doesn't Robert Jordan. I apologize, but that's the improvised nature of it. You go off on tangents.
Right. So I think you released your 5th episode just yesterday, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the 5th episode came out yesterday, and next week is. I think next week the 6th episode is a real strong turning point in terms of the direction of the campaign and all that, because we get to Johanna. Before that they were just trying to get there, but now we finally made it to our first real setting, and it's a lot of fun. It goes off the rails pretty quickly, but then it's just 15 or so episodes of me struggling to get them back on.
All right. You can answer this however you want. Obviously, no spoilers. Do we meet Logain?
I think that the main thing that we meet is Logain's conscious or not, or intentional or not, his hold on the country, because it's altered everything. And so the first people that they meet and run into are people who are running north to join the army
dragon.
Of the dragon, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's this real upset and disquiet, and you're seeing villages evacuated, you're seeing refugees, you're seeing Children of the Light being pretty opportunistic about this vacuum of military presence and trying to make a push. So it's, at least so far, we don't meet Logain, we don't see Logain, but you absolutely feel his presence.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, and so you should, because I think perfect segue to talk about one of my favorite characters. I don't know if you guys can actually see this. This is my new chibi. My old chibi. This is my innkeeper chibi. It's actually based on Logain. I don't know if I can actually find it.
Right.
Maybe I'll find it, but it's basically an Asha'man, and the Asha'man is dressed in a pretty cool, noble looking outfit, because as we know, Logain was a minor noble in the country of Ghealdanin. So he did come from nobility, and in that chibi of mine, I'm holding a seal, and we'll get to that, because that is his arc, right?
Yes.
Starts as a noble, and he ends with a seal in his hand, or crumbs, I guess. But so we're gonna kind of look at his arc, start from where he started, and then go through things. But a couple of things I think that are important to start with, when I do these character deep dives. The first one is always appearance. What does this guy look like? And I think it's important because there are a few things that were important about just in description. Funny, I say we're not going to talk about, but this is Corey LANSDELL. I don't know if you know Corey. Corey does amazing art. He's done a lot of fantasy stuff, but this is Álvaro Morte as Logain Ablar, and this is something if someone can put Corey's Etsy stuff or just his website in chat, that'd be awesome. But there's all these amazing art that he's made, and you can, if you want, you can purchase it. But Logain was a large man. He was about 6 feet 2 inches tall, as anyone from Randland. That's average height.
Sure,
absolutely.
With a dark complexion and brown eyes. His hair was dark and curled to his broad shoulders. So it is, right off, Robert Jordan tells us, this is a big guy who has, a presence about him. And there's a couple of things that, when throughout the series, that, again, we see him when we meet him is for the first time is when he's already gentled. Well, not gentle. He's already captured. So he's in captivity, and Rand, sees him in the streets of Camelin, and from Rand's perspective, Logain appears to be a king despite being caged, and Rand notices him laughing despite his captivity, and so there's this presence about him that is more than obviously the physical attributes. In your head, Daniel, have you always thought when you obviously read the books, Logain to be this charismatic sort of person?
Oh yeah. I mean, I always found him interesting because we're talking about the whole arc, but I always found it interesting that I'm going to do kind of a sports ball comparison here. Is that Logain always impressed me because he is like the backup quarterback. He's the second best, but until he got to like the backup quarterback, he was the best at everything. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he gets to like the backup quarterback and there's somebody who's better than him. And it's like, that's what it always feels like to him. And so, yeah, he's probably just as good, but he doesn't get the shot. He only can go so far.
I mean, I'll share this next. This is again from the Wheel of Time Companion. His strength, and again, we have these strength levels, right? That I don't know anyone understands, but it's there if you want to. His strength level was a ++2, which was one step below Rand and 5 steps above the strongest woman. Really, it's like Rand, Moradin, Ravin, and I think Logain. So I mean, he's for a backup quarterback, he is extremely powerful.
But if you get to be a backup quarterback in college or a backup quarterback in the NFL, you're pretty darn good.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah.
There's only one guy that's better than you.
Oh yeah,
and he's the Dragon Reborn. You almost got there.
Yeah. So in your first memories, I mean, again, we see someone. Who's raised in nobility. Just to give a little bit of background, Brad, to everyone. He started channeling when he was 21. And around when he was 24, 25, is when he proclaimed himself to be the dragon. Mm-hmm. So, again, people are probably starting to notice that, much different than what we see in the show. Everyone's aged up, but Logain in specific, I think, different kind of age group. And then he gets captured when he was 27. So he starts in Ghealdan, kind of wins over the country of Ghealdan, is fighting his way towards Tyr, and there's this big battle at Lugard, and he gets, captured. And then he's taken through Camelin on his way to Tarfalon. So for the first 4 books, we see him captured. We hear stuff that he's false dragon, that he's clearly not the dragon. But did you think that he at that point that he would have a strong future in the books?
I think so. I remember like the first read through. I think outside of like the primary characters, I think Logain was my favorite like secondary character. It's just classic literary technique of they've mentioned him too many times in book 1 for him to not come back.
Yes.
But just that initial interaction or distance sighting with Rand. Just the whole description that Rand had of he's effectively just a crownless king and everyone around him is aware of it when they're in his presence.
Right.
I just thought, ooh, that's something, because we know he isn't the guy, but that what does he mean in the context of the world?
Right.
And I just loved seeing him constantly reinvent himself, find himself again, and eventually get to the place that he is at the end, where he's not the guy, but essential to the guy.
Right, exactly. Let me actually ask people, Danny, before, sorry, I'm cutting you off here. I'm going to end this poll. I don't know how you answered this. Who is your favorite Asha'man? And I randomly put out stuff. I'm surprised they didn't put Damar Flynn there, because Damar Flynn is a strong strong favorite. Grady is the healer, and that's why I put him, because I'm all about healing. So let me end this, and it's kind of I guess poor showing, because in the sense that this is a Logain show, and Logain has comes in at 19%. Andrel,
I voted for Andrel.
And again, I'm not surprised. Andrel does get a certain amount of not love in the fandom sometimes, but maybe not, I think, justified. Andrel is, for whatever reasons, the way Brandon brought him in, it was a great character, and his really well told story that he has. So okay, I'm not surprised by Andrel. I still would have gone with Logain, because I think Logain, and we'll talk about this, his arc throughout the books and what Brandon has said about him is to me much more interesting. So let me actually ask people, what was your first impression of Logain? All right, so let's try to word this. Future hero, future villain. What else? Unremarkable.
Unremarkable would be a good one. Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Unremarkable, and do we have a fourth option?
The GOAT. He's the true hero of the story.
Yeah.
Logan's the GOAT.
All right.
Backup quarterback.
Yeah. All right. True GOAT. He's the true GOAT. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see how people answer this. So Dan, sorry I cut you off there.
I was just going to say that, obviously as we got further in the story, his story developed and his arc progressed. But I think I looked at him a little differently. Like, he was that classic trope of, okay, he gets mentioned a lot. But I took it in the first part of the book as a mirror of what could have happened to Rand.
Right.
Here's an example of what normally happens to false dragons is this. And Rand is like, oh, crap. Is that going to happen to me, or am I going to follow? Am I going to follow this? Because there was a little bit there that he wasn't too sure that he was the true dragon. And even when he was, here's this opposite mirror person of this is what normally happens. What's your path going to be like?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's setting, and Robert Jordan did this so well in so many different ways. You tell a lot of story world building in like very few words, or I mean not he used a lot of words, but not a lot of screen time for Logain, but you still got so much understanding of, and at least we see pretty much the whole of the first book as Rand, Rand seeing Logain and what impact that had on him, especially in Camelin, because I don't want to be captured or caged. And it had definitely an effect on the main characters, especially Rand. I like there's a couple of things I saw here. Andrel has the best moment of any Asha'man, the gateway from the volcano. I mean, that is super cool, but he's no seal breaker, so there's that. And the Funk Lord, and we'll talk about this, Logain lost some points with me when he did what he did at the end, or rather his motivations for doing so weren't admirable. We'll specifically talk about this. I like this villain until Min's viewing. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is I can imagine that being like, oh, Min can't be wrong, so clearly, if you thought he was not the good guy, he probably is. Let me check here. Yeah, so this is one thing I didn't mention. Again, you have to bring in some Theoryland here. There's not a lot of Theoryland stuff from Logain, but this is from January 14, 1997. It's a letter to Thomas Howard as a reply that Jordan said. It's paraphrased. So this is Thomas Howard saying what Jordan said. that with regards to him being captured, essentially, I take this to mean they didn't bother talking or thinking about her because of this assumption. He also stated that only a few sisters had seen her in this case, his Cat Swain, during the capturing of Logain, and that her involvement with the incident was minimal. So I was trying to find, how was he captured and things like that. And the fact that Cat Swain thought, even though her involvement was minimal, that he may be important, I thought was, made you think, if Cat Swain is worried about you, or not, at least taking an interest, then you probably are important. So yeah, you mentioned Jen mentioned Min's viewing. So in terms of the first 3 books is mainly False Dragon through Camelin. Don't really see too much until the second book when he gets gentled. So in the second book he's in Tar Valon and he's gentled, and after that it's mainly seeing snippets of him being basically in the Despair. I'm forgetting exactly what it's called. I think it's called the Despair, but just not has an accepted next to him all the time, and we don't really see much from him until the Shadow Rising, when the Tower coup happens. So the fact that he's brought back, and he's brought back with 2 Aes Sedai who themselves have been stilled, so are in a similar kind of place, and 2 who were in the leadership when he was gentled. So I again, really great writing and bringing together people who are in a similar position. And now it's like Logain, who's in despair, doesn't know what to do with his life. He's lost the one power. Sees Swan and Lyanna, especially Swan, who is clearly not giving up. She's fighting for something. And he gets recruited. So that's kind of the next arc where he's like, I have something to do now. And the way he latches on to this is pretty interesting. And the Min's viewing actually comes into play. This is towards the start of the Shadow Rising. So maybe, Brad, why don't I have you read this?
Yeah, sure.
This is from the Shadow Rising, chapter 17, Deceptions.
All right. She barely heard him, because suddenly she was staring at a big man with long, dark hair curling around slumped shoulders, wandering aimlessly down one of the graveled paths through the trees under the watchful eyes of an accepted. She had seen Logain before, a sad-faced, once hardy man, always with an accepted for companion. The woman was meant to keep him from killing himself as much as to prevent his escape. Despite his size, he truly did not seem up to anything of the latter sort. But she had never before seen a flaring halo around his head, radiant in gold and blue. It was only there for a moment, but that was enough.
So yeah, like Jen said, that is not inconspicuous. And Min goes on to say that has something to do with glory, and he's like, she questions it. She goes and tells Swan about this, and then as the book goes on, the Tower coup happens, Swan gets deposed, and now Logain gets recruited, and Daniel, the Min again sees something. If you don't mind reading this.
Sure. Eyeing the height of him, the breadth of his shoulders, Min thought that they had better keep their belt knives handy. Suddenly, for a moment, that flaring halo of gold and blue shone about his head, speaking of glory to come, as surely as it had the first time she had seen it. She shivered, viewings, images.
So the truth of a viewing, that's chapter 47, The Shadow Rising. So, clearly Min kept seeing this. And it's mentioned as the books go on, while they're on this journey now, leaving Tar Valon, that the halo was getting more and more prominent around him. So, again, things you don't remember, but, Jordan was clearly playing into that this is important. This person is important now, and had become kind of exactly, become that this is something that is related to something you're going to see in the future. So now he's escaped Travlon. He's in this is the Shadow Rising. We get into the Fires of Heaven. Not much happens in this Fires of Heaven. Actually, no. There is this kind of part where he basically acts as the protector as they're going out into the will the on their travels, trying to figure out where to go next, and they sleep in this barn and get found out in the morning, and I think it's Logain who accidentally burns the barn down and escapes and leaves Swan and Lyanna and Min, and they're brought to Gareth Wren. And they're this whole time thinking, well, he's escaped, he's not going to come back and help, but he actually comes back and saves them. So I think that was one moment where I was like, well, this is someone with a degree of integrity, and he's staying true to his word that he said he will help them. And I think he says to Swan when he gets recruited that I am your man, or something like that, and he does. He stays true to it because Swan offers him, well, I'm gonna help you get revenge on the Red Aja, and that's kind of his motivation at that point. So what did you make of that kind of this is someone who has someone who's going to stay true to his word. I think more and more, Brad, that I think we got a sense that this is possibly a hero here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an English major, so it's impossible for me to not try and find analogs in subtext, even when it would be more fun not to, in this stuff. And what was always interesting about Logain to me is that outside of like a sort of uncertain reference later on, there's not really much mention of what madness looks like for him. It's not visible. It's not this clear thing. For me, this whole arc with Logain being gentled and then needing, supervision, to letting people down and finally redeeming himself by stepping up. This is just like his madness to me is just this analog for like depression, and it's not visible. It's not out there. It's the feeling that the source of what makes him feel alive is just not there for him, right? But ultimately what brings him out of that is community, and it's people who are going through it too, that begrudgingly and under the threat of the White Tower totally going into chaos,
yes,
extend an olive branch. And even though him helping is messy and he's setting things on fire, he ultimately does decide to dive in and help those people who have helped him. And that's why the whole time that he's traveling with him, that glory starts to come back, and you literally see him start to come back to himself. And that's just how I've always read that. People are probably rightfully bored with him if they're first time reading the series, when he's just kind of moping a little bit, but I just love it. I think it's so good. I think he wrote that part so well.
Yeah, I mean, there's this, it's fairly subtle, but becomes obvious, this wrestling of power that's happening, because really in that point we have two people who've lost pretty much everything, right? This is a noble, someone from nobility who could channel, he's stripped of his land when he becomes a false dragon and doesn't have the power. This is the Armland seat, and someone who could channel, who doesn't have both of those things now. And you see them on on this journey together to get to find purpose. And you definitely, depression is a strong thing that he's trying to fight, obviously because of losing the power. I don't know if you noticed this, Daniel. I was reading through some of his things, but they're on this journey, and he gets back with the group, and they make it to Saladar finally. But as they're walking into Saladar, he's like totally like tuned out the world because he has no purpose at this point, because he doesn't know what Swan is going to do for him. He's back in a White Tower again, similar kind of structure.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even see the warders around him. He's just like dark, brooding, just walking man next to them. And at that point, it's almost like, well, all is lost for him again.
Yeah. It's a difficult story arc. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, he was at the highest moment. He thinks he's the Dragon Reborn, and a little bit of the depth of the show, you get a little bit more of the characters thinking of, he thought he was, he thought he was going to save the world. So I got to believe a lot of that is, I don't see anything in the book that tells me otherwise for that character core concept. So, the story is the same thing. He was at his highest moment, and then his lowest moment when that was taken away from him. And then he still chooses to be a hero when you could easily just be like, just walk away from it. But yeah, the back and forth for Logain, I think, is one of the things that you just like, in the end of this, he's still one of the strongest people because he goes through some of the hardest things.
Yep.
Obviously not on the world-breaking level of Rand or anything like that, but for a normal person who just was one day, wait a second, I can channel. Yeah, he goes through some stuff, and then to go right back into the hands of the White Tower, even though it's just a small town of Aes Sedai. That how does that not break you?
Yeah, the little tower that they called their headquarters, right? And it's interesting you brought up madness, and I think I have this. I think it'll come up regarding his madness, Brad. But let me. What did you guys think of? I can read this for you. Sure. Him finding purpose in getting revenge, because that became a strong revenge, not only from all Aes Sedai, at least the Red Aja, and this is from the Wheel of Time Companion. He couldn't be sure Swan and Lyanna wouldn't kill him if he didn't cooperate. And the plot was a chance for revenge that gave him at least a small new lease on life, though he had been sinking into despair. And while he wanted revenge on all Aes Sedai, he realized he was unlikely to get it. Swan's plot offered at least a chance to damage the Red Aja, and by association to damage them all to some degree. While he wanted revenge on Aes Sedai, his innate pragmatism meant that he could abandon that desire if he had to, though not entirely without difficulty. So that, again, we're getting a outside view into his psyche almost there. That, he's like, well, revenge is what he wanted, but I like that last sentence that he has this innate pragmatism, which with difficulty he could get over it, and we see this eventually, and when we get to that, it becomes fairly obvious. As I was reading through his arc, I was like, whoa, this is really well done, even though a lot of people may have problems with Logain's arc and how he was used or not used. but there was, there's if you look at it in entirety, it's a great arc. And so Brad, is this a strong enough reason to stay alive to get revenge?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely. Sure. Oh man, as a big fan of never acting on it, but just holding a quiet grudge. If I was ever, wronged to the degree that Logain was, not even that people did something wrong necessarily, but just by the world, and given a bad lot. If I had the opportunity to, enact like real change upon that against the people who were agents in that, I have to imagine, like you said before, when he got to Saladar, that's when he sort of went like, oh, my purpose is done. Like, again, my whole purpose was getting them here. Now that's over. Who am I? Here's something else. Revenge. And so absolutely, I see revenge as like this great intermediate force before he can, great, so I've achieved revenge. We've maintain some retribution. Now I can go back to being a person, and he wouldn't have been able to do that unless the revenge had driven him there.
Yeah. So he needed another purpose, and then so Swan and Leanna tell him, hey, this is how we're gonna do it. You're gonna falsely tell the Aes Sedai here that the Red Aja basically made him a puppet dragon. They found him, knew he could channel, and said that basically be controlled by the Red Aja and used, and then gentled at the end. So he basically told all of the Aes Sedai there, and he was then kind of shown to nobles around to get a little bit of legitimacy that, hey, we have that false dragon. So Salazar was definitely using Logain, but he was getting something out of it too.
And that plot worked on me, because I forgot that it was made up when I did my first reread, and I was like, when am I going to see those Red Aja doing it? None of it was all made up. So it worked on me. I was so invested in it being real.
Now, what the Red Aja, or rather the Black Aja, was doing was just killing people left, right, and center. I remember I did a Black Aja episode, and the numbers were in the thousands that were killed with even a suspicion of channeling. And it was mainly the Black Aja using the Red Aja because they thought the dragon would be born soon. The Dragon Reborn would be...
And that tells you something about the Red Aja just as a group, that people don't like you that much. And I mean, like the Black Aja can just be like, just barely under the surface. They're like, oops, oops, oops. And everybody's like, no, that's Red Aja. Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Children of the Light are the only other group that I could think like the Black Aja could just like sneak into, or like Dark Friends could sneak into, because they're like, no, they're pretty horrible people. Okay, yeah, that tracks.
That's exactly what we expect from them, yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's surprised.
All right, Winter is like, I really hope we get that moment on the show of Nynaeve healing his gentling, and then the look on his face as she thinks, oh crap, what have I done? So how about Brad here narrates with someone mentioned your I forget the adjective you use, but your voice.
I would love to take credit for that, but I'm pretty sure that's Michelle from my show. So right. Who's taking watch is polluting the chat here.
All right, so this is Lord of Chaos, chapter 29, titled Fire and Spirit.
Sure. Something about that cut. If it was bridged with fire and spirit, so... It was the slight widening of Logain's eyes that told her what she had done. Breath froze in her throat. She backed away from him so fast she stumbled over her skirt. Nynaeve, Logain said, sitting up straight, what is the mat? A heartbeat. And Nynaeve had all of Saidar she could hold directed into a shield. Go find Sheriam, she said hurriedly. Nobody else but Sheriam. Tell her... She drew a deep breath that seemed like her first in hours. Her heart was speeding to beat galloping horses. Tell her I've healed Logain.
So,
so good.
Just that last line. That last line. Tell her I've healed Logain.
So this so matter of fact, so panicky, so Nynaeve.
So this is this is how I remember Lord of Chaos. I, for the longest time, had Lord of Chaos as my favorite book, and it was because of the scene, and then Egwene getting raised, and Dumai's Wells. So all these huge things happen. Now, people when I reread it, and people when they reread it, are always like, oh, like it doesn't hit as strong, and it's mainly because these moments only hit hard, or that hard, the first time. Because I mean, that hit hard just you reading that, but that first time was extra amazing, right? Yeah. So Danny, what do you think? Logain's healed now.
Yeah, it was always one of those. When I was doing my last reread, I was excited to get back to that point of like, oh, this is when it happens, and I remember that first time reading it, like, no, this is not going to happen. Oh my God, that happened, and I'm not a huge comic book person. I like comic books, but I never collected them. But that moment always like kind of struck me of, wouldn't it have been cool to be like a graphic novel of like that half of just his eyes and then her tumbling back, and that was one of the most dynamic descriptions of just, it's his eyes and then her kind of reacting, and he didn't move. And so like that always struck me as like a comic book moment of, that'd be so cool to like kind of see this different frames of a page done.
Yeah, I wish I could. So this is the end of the chapter. The next chapter starts, and it's like, oh, okay, I got lost reading that earlier today because it was just so good. And you're right, he just sits there. He doesn't bat an eye. He which is remarkable. Like, it's like you just got back what you have lost, and he's like, I'm gonna play it cool.
He's the coolest, man. Logain's the coolest guy in the series. I'll die on the hill.
I'm trying to remember. Is there, because she heals Swan too? I mean, what does Swan do? Does she have any physical movement?
Something fish guts probably is.
So yeah.
I think she cries. I think
I think she cries.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I'm going to end this poll. What was your first impression of Logain? And about 43% of people thought future villain, which I never did. The both of you, did you?
I picked it when I voted. I picked future villain just because he's a challenger. I mean,
right.
At that point, if anything, if he gets away, he still thinks he's the dragon.
Yeah. Brad,
I threw away my vote to True Goat, but if I had to vote honestly, I would have voted for Future Hero for sure, because just the way, everything about the way he carries himself, just so immediately signified like, this is the Boromir, like it's everything about him is like, this guy is going to be the noble hero, and even if things get a little dodgy in the middle, it's going to be a positive ending, so just
that's interesting.
The real like traditional super strong fighter kind of a thing, even though he's more of a a channeler, caster, if we're going D&D style, but just saw as like the real traditional hero, the clean cut guy. I knew there would be some sort of redemption.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I always thought of him as the hero, especially just from that first interaction with Rand, and not even interaction, just seeing him and being like this. He thought of him as a king, and something about that, where again you're in Rand's head. You don't like Aes Sedai. And if the Aes Sedai have done something like that to a person, it's probably going to turn out, good in a way. It's just a way of thinking that, this is someone who's been dealt a really bad hand. He thought he was the dragon, but he's not. Doesn't make him a bad person necessarily. And not that we don't see other false dragons turn out to be great characters, but I always thought Logain as a superhero kind of character.
I always found it interesting too. I don't think I ever saw it anywhere else in the Wheel of Time that I can think of, but the public relation game of the Tower. Like this is basically like a Roman triumph. They're marching their captured enemy through the streets. I mean, this is like what Caesar would have done when he captured a major chief and marched him through the street. That's a pretty big. That's an interesting view of. It caught me off guard when I read it the first couple of times. Is that this Tower of Wizards needs to do this to make everybody realize that they're powerful.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
It's just like shows you how low he was, that he was being paraded through the streets like a conquered, Roman Empire, vassal state. to come back from that is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the hubris, right? I think it shows
yeah.
the hubris of the Aes Sedai in a perfect way, you know. Okay, so I was,
but the other thing I would say is that's such a and I'm probably going to get off topic here, and I don't go long, but it's such a masculine response for a feminine structure, and it's like that. It never connected well to me. Like that was just a weird thing. Like, this is so important that they're going to act differently than what you would normally expect.
I think like power, right? That's who's holding power. But yeah, definitely, like, and in like sort of building the pocket of the world that I was doing for the game, I had to keep checking myself and going, this is a pretty gendered world at this point, you know, like things. I can't get everywhere that my turbo lib mind wants to go with this, you know. But you know, so that's consistent. But then at the same time, the way that the White Tower acts might be out of necessity, you know.
Right.
But it is a precursor to all these things that you see throughout that totally test and totally challenge that paradigm that exists. So definitely, like, that hyper masculine machismo is or traditionally hyper masculine thing stands out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely it gets even better, I think, when that wall, that facade goes away, and you see these are, like it happens with the Forsaken too, that these are not really that powerful people. They don't know everything, and they are clueless as some other people that you can, you know, they're just in power, and that's all it is. Dynamics.
That facade is all that's keeping them in power too.
Yeah.
You know, there's some fear that, like, if people knew what was really going on, that they can't defend themselves in the right situation, and you know, this illusion of power is all that's keeping the tower really going.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I was going to ask people is, did you think, you know, until that scene that just happened we saw, did you think that Logain will eventually be healed? You know, before that point, yes or no? Did you think that was that was eventually going to be? I'm trying to think back. I'm gonna say
I don't think I did.
I'm gonna say I had some suspicions, because Nynaeve was a healer, and there was a point where she wants to heal everything, and everything, and Rand tries to heal death, and Moiraine's like, you can't heal that. Like, that's the only thing you can't heal. And I remember there's something about that whole dynamic when Nynaeve always wanted to heal. I was like, this is probably something that will happen. Now, the thing that never, you know, not in that it's related, I never saw the cleansing of Saidin coming. I thought that was not possible.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that I didn't.
Still one of my favorite moments.
Yes.
Still one of my favorite moments.
A lot of people say that it was. If you read back, there is foreshadowing, a lot of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But the healing. Let's see how people. Brad, what did you think?
I think I'm sort of the opposite of you. I think that's a very good point of nothing. You can't heal death. You just can't heal that. You know, that's a very good point. I didn't catch it. I didn't think that was going to be possible. I thought Logain was going to find some way to contribute, and they would maybe find some, if there was healing, it would be of this, like, despair that takes you when you can't channel anymore, when you've been severed from the source. They'd find some way to heal that, and people would just live normal lives. I didn't think he'd be healed at all. So when that happened, like, that passage we read earlier, that's so, like, the perfect impressionist, like, zoom in, like you were saying, comic book style on the eyes. That was also me when I was reading it, because I wasn't expecting it to be possible.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try my best not to do my Álvaro Morte impression while reading this, but this is the next chapter. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna no, because I'm not gonna do it. It's so bad that it might come out. That's what's gonna, but I won't. This is the next chapter, and I picked this out because this again speaks to some of the show stuff, and we see what Logain saw when he was in Camelot. You know, I saw a man once who will cause more trouble than I ever did. Maybe it was the Dragon Reborn. I don't know. It was when they took me through Camelin after I was captured. He was far away, but I saw a glow, and I knew he'd shake the world. Caged as I was, I couldn't help laughing. So, that is word to word that last from in the show from Lord of Chaos, that we see Logain tell Rand in season 2, right? We see it in season 1 in Tarvalon, and then we get the other side from Logain in this last season.
But the show, they've gone to he could see male channelers.
Well, listen, yes. I'm glad you brought that up. I think I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing we didn't talk about was
I don't think they're going to talk about ta'veren in the show.
Well, no, there are rumors. There are rumors of 5 ta'veren. That's about it.
I think that's the one time they mention it. Yeah. I don't think, because it just gets weird. Like the ta'veren stuff later just gets weird. Like the arrows falling in a circle and the bubbles of evil, and it's like I don't think they want to deal with trying to explain the metaphysics.
Yeah. This is a really good inside joke. What if the guest asks you to do it?
And I'm gonna be honest, when you read that part, that was the line from the show. I heard a little bit of Alvaro slip into there, just a little bit.
Just the last one. I think it did. It did. Yeah. So we talked about talent, right? Logain's talent is the ability to see ta'veren. He sees ta'veren as glowing and surrounded by light. So that is, one. I'm trying again. This is the only thing I actually don't remember when we find out that he has this talent. He does mention it now in Lord of Chaos when this happens, when he gets healed, that he saw this, but I don't know when there's that recognition that this is actually a talent of recognizing ta'veren. I think it's later on, but the fact that when you see that too, you're like, oh, this is someone who has a talent, he's powerful, he's a halo around, and Min seeing, clearly someone who is powerful and potentially going to be a big player in what's going to happen. So let's give some time to people to answer that poll. I'm not sure, if there is much, but if someone does want to call in and tell us why they like Logain or don't like Logain, or how Logain, because now we're getting into maybe not the most favorite parts of Logain's arc for a lot of people. But the number is 313-TALK-WAD, 313-825-5968. Call in.
Can I ask Brad a D&D question for his group while we're waiting?
Yeah, well, sure. That, and I have a D&D question too.
Okay.
But so you first.
How are you handling lowercase talents like that in the world? I mean, are there going to be people that they run into that have those talents? Do any of your players have a chance to have any of those talents?
Wait, you mean lowercase or uppercase?
Was it lowercase? I guess it's uppercase.
Yes. Okay. You mean talent? Yeah, okay. Yes.
No, they're just a talentless bunch. But no, actually, we can at this point definitely say, with what's been released so far, one of the players does have a talent. And so with D&D, there's all these, because we're just playing straight 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. It's not anything that's adapted specifically for the Wheel of Time. And so I had 2 choices. I could either tell people that the subclass that they wanted to play didn't make sense in the world and wasn't a thing that people could do, or if it kind of could be conceivably in there, I could say that they had a minor talent. And so one of my friends, Martin, wanted to play a aberrant mind sorcerer, and part of that is being able to communicate sort of telepathically in a limited sense. And so we figured out a way, Martin and I was like, okay, I really like this. I think this could be cool. Let's figure out the limits of this and how it could be one of like Robert Jordan's sort of minor powers, minor talents.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some of that going on. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. There's something that came to my mind now. I'm forgetting it, but as far as that talent goes for Logain, I'm trying to think. I think there's one other person who has a similar talent. Is it
Nicola?
Nicola or not? Yeah, Nicola and not Fowlin, right? Like one of those accepted in Saladar has a similar talent, and I think that is where we learn that Logain has a similar talent, I think, or we learn because we figure out what she has, and we're like, oh, so that's probably what Logain has too. I think I'm trying to think if it was how it was spelt out to us that Logain has this talent, and I don't necessarily remember because it's not the sort of thing Robert Jordan does is tell us stuff, kind of face value.
Well, off the top of my head, and definitely not on another window on my computer.
Okay.
I do have that we get like confirmation that Logain, that's what his power is that it's Ta'veren, because of Nicola and actually Swan as well, both describing people that are confirmed like Ta'veren in the show. They experience the same sight around them of this like outer glow, and so that's what confirms what Logain's power is.
Yeah. Perfect. So now he's healed, right? And I think one of the coolest thing that happens is, this is when Egwene becomes, to me, super Egwene. It's like my favorite. Like, Egwene is not my favorite character, but Saladar on Egwene is, I'm like, big fan. And one of the coolest things she does is she helps, and I think towards the end of Lore of Chaos, helps Logain escape, or basically sets him free. They're like talking. He's like angry at him because at this time his healed is now being shielded, and he's like kind of back to square one. He's like, the same thing is happening to me, and they haven't gentled him because of Rand's amnesty. And Egwene tells, I think, Swan I think they give fork root tea to the Aes Sedai who are shielding him. They go to sleep, and he escapes pretty much, without causing any problems or anything like that. So he, Egwene, again, realizing and talking to him that he wants to go help Rand, and she's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna let you do that. And again, without that, he could easily have been gentled or not become a player. And the sort of risk Egwene takes, I think, is really cool, and it's maybe underrated in terms of his arc, that I didn't really remember until I read this. I'm like, yeah, this is why I really like Egwene in that role as the Amyrlin who's not an Amyrlin maybe, but does really, really well.
I tell you, from a D&D point of view, just because there's always a part of D&D is the economics that you have to think of.
Yeah.
The key to economics of D&D in Wheel of Time is you got to be the person that controls the fork root market. Because if you can control that, at a certain point, everybody wants that thing. You can just make so much money on that and just retire as a fork root merchant.
Yeah, that's where the real power is.
Yeah.
What you really need to do is just get Andral to be your kind of
deliverer,
corporate kind of, not in career, like just your like Amazon. Amazon is Andral basically. Yeah. Andral and his group of Gateway, right? I always get that wrong.
Gateway. You just buy up all the fork root everywhere, and just be like, I'm the one source of that.
Yeah.
And everybody's coming to you, and you can just set the price.
My guy Andral's gonna airdrop it to you. It's hassle-free.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So he makes his way. So next time we see him really is a couple books later in the Path of Daggers. He's in the Bog Tower, and he's an Asha'man. So I can read this for you guys. This is from the Companion. Logain was the only man inside the Black Tower to wear the sword and dragon who did not receive private instruction from Taim, which others put down to animosity between them. He and Taim did not like one another, which most attributed to the fact that each had once declared himself the Dragon Reborn. From Logain's point of view, they felt not only did he have to place himself below Rand, but below Taim as well, something he plainly found difficult since he had been, in fact, more successful as a false dragon than Taim, more famous, or perhaps one should say more notorious. I just love how it's like, I I failed at that better than you did. So I made more of a false dragon than you ever did. So clearly
I love that interpretation. I actually won America's Funniest Home Videos and you were second place. So
it was all the years ago on American Idol. It was like the two that won first and second, and like so.
But
I was looking at the wiki earlier, and they said there was somebody else that had professed themselves or proclaimed themselves as the dragon at the same time as Logain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I did not remember that. It's a name that didn't even didn't connect at all. I'm like, that guy just went, nah, I'm good. He's like, he saw Logain, and he's like,
yeah.
Nah. I'm just gonna go home.
I like this. Patrick's like, Taim's just a third string quarterback. He's not even the second.
He's practice roster.
He's not even near the team. That's what it is.
Hey, they say that's still the best money, for the easiest job.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I think that became more apparent in that Black Tower Asha'man now, that it started becoming to this leadership kind of capacity, kind of by the fact that obviously that he was really powerful, but also because he had all those characteristics. So the companion also talks about that, that capacity. So I can read this for you too. He had considerable charisma, as well as leadership and organizational ability, and a fair degree of military skill. He had no lesser desire for glory or power than he had before. He never really believed that he was the dragon reborn, unlike some who claimed it. He felt like Taim, that if he had managed to fulfill enough of the prophecies, he could have pulled it off. There certainly hadn't been anyone else around claiming to be the dragon reborn that he knew of. He was not a man who liked being second to anyone, but he knew that taking advantage of Rand's amnesty was his one real chance for power and glory, not to mention safety from the Aes Sedai. So, I mean, again, his pragmatism there shines through, and, they talk about his charisma, leadership skills, and whatnot. So, clearly now he's making himself a somewhat secondary faction at the Black Tower. The one thing that gets a little muddied in there is his bonding Aes Sedai. I don't know if how much of that the both of you read, but it's pretty much kind of what Alana did, and we give Alana a lot of slack. I don't think Logain gets as much. I mean, I'm sure he does, but at least I don't think of
not for the same reason.
And you can almost argue that bond, the Asha'man, I don't even know what to call it, the Asha'man Aes Sedai bond, is in ways more problematic than the Warder bond, because there is this how should I term it, obedience clause in it that is that is there, that can be turned off. Apparently, I didn't get that. That I think it's from Theory Land.
Doesn't the Warder bond have that too, though? It's just never used.
It's a little different. Jordan has said that it is a little bit different in how it works. That it is more stronger in that bond, in its difference. And again, the way he bonds, especially, I'm going to say this wrong, I think it's Toveen and Gabriella. Toveen was a red, clearly lost her crap when she got bonded, and Gabrielle, eventually had a relationship with him. Again, could get into the nuances of that, but there was again a point there where now he's in power and he's done certain things that, is he really a hero? Because those are not hero things that you've done. So what do you think, Brad, at that point?
Yeah, those sections definitely hurt my my perfect idealized vision of Logain. I think in terms of the Warder bond, I see because it's bad. There's no way of like the obedience clause. There's no way of really painting that well. You know, the reason I imagine it's more strong is just because neither side trust each other at that point.
Right.
So there has to be like an insurance clause, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's you know, it's a gray world. You know, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of the good guys do that is just like not great at all times. You know, there's you get to see, because there's so much time and you don't have to tell this tight, you know, a tight 800-page story. You know, there's so much more space for expansion, but like you
just
get
a little
to
bit
see,
more space,
just slightly, but you get to see all these characters have their moments of weakness, of imperfection, and show like their nasty sides. You see the rage, you see the cruelty for cruelty's sake.
Right.
But yeah, certainly I think tellingly at this point he's up against Mazrim Taim, and I think that also you play dirty to fight against dirty. So I think there's a certain element of that that's seeping in. The fight that he's in right now is getting to him somewhat, and not changing him, but letting the worst parts of him out.
Yeah, for sure. I see a lot of discourse in chat about that. I love it. I think we can definitely get into a tangent, but I'm going to promise, because this is something I've been wanting to do, and Innkeeper Hatch and I've been wanting to do, I don't know, since last year. Never really got around to it. But we have this planned. At some point, you're going to see the Water Bond and the Aes Sedai, a deep dive. The reason we haven't been able to do it because it does require a lot of research that it's just going to take time. So maybe in the next couple of months, I'm going to do that. You know, the Water Bond and the Aes Sedai. Then we can also look at obviously this bond too, because it's different. And you know, we're going to talk the reason this came up, because in the show, the Water Bond became quite a it was framed well. It was important, and we had that awesome scene at the end. You know, it says Nomen, we need a 12 hour. No, don't tempt me, please. And well, also the 12-hour metaphysics part, but I don't think I could do it for the Water Bond, to be honest. But yeah, that sometime in the future, the Water Bond and Aes Sedai. Again, that picture back there. Corey Lansdale, check him out. He's awesome.
That's very cool.
So you know, he did some stuff that was not, you know, was questionable at the least, you know, to put it mildly, I think. But you know, he's still trying to, in a way, understand what's the right thing to do, because at this time, the Black Tower is pretty much. Doesn't have dad around, you know. Rand's away. Rand's not around, and Rand's not taking care of them, and Taim's doing whatever he wants and saying, hey, Rand told me to do this, and Logain's like, I'm gonna go find Rand, and so by Crossroads of Twilight, he's out, you know. He's like, I'm gonna go find out where he is.
But I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Like, just to, like, it doesn't happen. Rand's gone. But at this point in the stage of when Rand is dark Randish, he probably would have bonded to Ward, or probably would have bonded to Aes Sedai too. He wasn't less gray at that stage.
Well, that's interesting. You bring that up. I think we'll get to that in a little bit. But before he gets to Rand, he goes. I think before he actually, I'm not sure if it's then. I think it is probably then when he goes to like Caemlyn, to Carrion, Caemlyn, and finally in Tyr at Algarin's Manor, he finds Rand. And when Rand sees him with his Aes Sedai that he's bonded, Rand is not happy with that. So even so Rand is actually tells him like I don't want to fight the White Tower. Like, why did you do this? Like, this is not what this is. Like, I'm not okay with this. And Logain's like, no, Taim said you were okay with this. And so it was basically Taim who had been doing it, and Logain, again, you know, everyone has their own choice, but you know, Taim thought that Logain thought that it was fine, and clearly Rand did it. Not for the reasons that we think that it shouldn't happen, but just because the power politics and how that works out. So he finally goes looking for Rand, finds Rand. I think Loyal and a bunch of other people make up this cool party that finally find Rand in Algarn's manor, and then we get to the point of Knife of Dreams, and again, one of the coolest parts in the book series happens. The battle when I don't know how many Trollocs and Myrddraal show up, but there is this one part. So they fight this. Logain shows up just in time, and Lews Therin takes over, starts channeling.
Oh yeah.
The arrows of fire, the blossoms of fire, the death gates, and basically Rand is at that time not in control. So this is what happens. And Daniel, if you don't mind reading,
sure.
Knife of Dreams, chapter 19, Vows.
A Deathgate, Logain said, his voice tinged with distaste. Why are you still holding the power, he asked suddenly, and so much? If you're trying to show me that you're stronger than I am, I already know it. I saw how large your Deathgates were compared to mine, and I'd say you're holding every drop of Sayadine that you can safely.
So again, our sense of who's stronger here. That Logain is strong. Logain can do he saw the weave, he copied it, he started doing the same ones that were from the Age of Legends. These are complex battle weaves that Logain saw once and used in battle. So it shows us a lot about his capabilities with the One Power. But also the fact that, he's like, dude, this guy's not stable. This is the Dragon Reborn. I don't know how well he's doing at this point here. I think that battle has a lot of cool things, but that's one of the parts I always remember where Logain's like, what are you doing? Because no one knows this is happening. It's the internal battle that's happening, and Logain says out loud, "Why are you doing this?" And then Nynaeve and Min are around, and they're like, "Oh crap! Like Rand needs help."
Yeah.
I like this.
Go ahead.
No. Just Penny's like, "I left the Death Gates. Curse you, Marvel, for stealing them." Yeah,
that's true.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. I mean, no, definitely.
I mean, the whole Infinity War is is I mean, Brandon has on record said that's kind of how I imagine it happening. Is Infinity War.
Basically. Yeah.
Interesting.
So Danny, what were you going to say there?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just something I was going to say real quick, but I think that's fine.
Okay. But so now we get to this point where he's actually you're reunited with Rand, and for a little while he ends up being Rand's kind of errand boy. He sets up a meeting with the Daughter of the Nine Moons. Spoiler alert, not the Daughter of the Nine Moons. It goes to Andor. Takes a message to Elaine, takes a message to the Borderland army, where we learn they have 13 sisters there, and Rand's not too happy with that. So he's just doing stuff. Now he's basically Rand's kind of trusted Asha'man person. I always wonder, Rand asks Narishma in, I think, A Crown of Swords to get Kalandor. If Logain had been around, would he have asked him to go get Kalandor? Or does he think, this is someone who I don't think I should put Kalandor in a false dragon's hands?
Put that in the backup quarterback's hands. I don't know.
You might just try and throw a Hail Mary.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to end our last poll and ask, did you think that Logain will eventually be healed? About 63% of people said yes. So I guess the more than, people here. I mean, I thought... but the two of you really didn't think that would happen. So let me ask people this. If he was around, would Rand trust Logain with Kalandor? I don't know if I can fit this with the calendar retrieval.
I'm trying to remember. Does Luz Theron react to Logain?
Oh,
Like in his head, does he tell him to like kill? Like does like because he? Well, I think with Taimi, he was like, kill him. You know, you have to kill him.
Oh yeah.
Does he ever,
yeah. I don't
does he
think
do that
so.
with Logain too?
Not that I recall.
Because Taimi, he does with Taimi like right away.
Also, sidebar,
Lieutenant Logain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, what were you saying, Brad?
Just this, hearing you guys say Taim is like, this is like finding out that Hermione is named Hermione all over again for me. I've been confidently saying Tame for 15 years.
Okay,
I did too.
This is good because Innkeeper Hatch always said Tame throughout his life, and then figured out. Yeah, then he's like, and he's like on record, like found out it's Taim from Jordan, and you know the audiobooks say Taim, and he's like, I'm never saying Taim. He says Taim now. The Tame does slip out at times, but I don't know why I thought it was always Taim. I don't know, and
I think it might be. It might be.
Well, there's also, you know, the Jordan did like to be somewhat of a stickler with his pronunciation, but most people, and especially Sanderson, is like, once the words are out, they're yours. You can say them as however you want them to say them. So yeah, that happens. You know, Logain is now his kind of errand boy doing stuff for him. He sends him to the Sea Folk to help people in our Daman, and you know, get supplies out to from Tyr. Like he said, no, like I think the Amayar had just committed their ritual after the cleansing, and the Sea Folk are like, we're gonna go out there. But Logain tries to kind of, you know, tell them, no, you need to go help these people in our Daman that are in, you know, need. Logain then, you know, has set up this meeting with the Daughter of the Nine Moons, and that's how Knife of Dream basically Knife of Dream, pretty sure, yes, right? Knife of Dreams is Semiraj.
I think so.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure. I'm confident that this is Robert Jordan. That whole thing, that it's not the Daughter of the Nine Moons, is Semiraj, and Rand loses a hand. Logain, I think, escapes through a waygate, and that's kind of, you know, the last that we see of him. In that, you know, he kind of gets absent for a couple of books. And next we see him is in A Memory of Light. He is imprisoned.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to bring up one thing, because there's the whole part when he before we do this, when he's rescued by his followers at the Black Tower, and he's resisting getting turned. I think that's a big thing to talk about him, that he's able to resist that.
Right. So he's imprisoned. The next thing we see in A Memory of Light is he's in captivity with Taim, and he's resisting being turned by 13 Murdral and 13 channelers. And you're right, it is important that, you know, he's resisted for such a long time, and Andral finally came to his rescue. I think it was Grendel and Taim who were there, and Brandon went full Brandon with Andral's powers, and had fun with that. And so, you know, Logain did get rescued, but it did take a toll. You know, there's mention of a darkness afterwards that he has, and you know, he resists, and he's able to kind of escape. You know, that. What did you think of that? You know, like, absence of him, because in that's a period of time where Andral was, you know, point man from an Asha'man standpoint. Was there more that he could do?
I was just going to say, I think it's interesting because, you know, I started when we started this conversation about talking about him being like the second best the backup quarterback. Until there was Rand, he was the top guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was really interesting that we go through his clear arc, and he is at this moment when he could be turned and he still resists.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting comparison to, is it Ravin that is the chosen, or the Forsaken that is the second best at everything? Was it Ravin, or was it
not
or was
Demandred?
Was it Demandred or Ravin?
I think it's Demandred. Like Demandred
Demandred
could have been Lews Therin is how I think of it. He's he's Lews Therin, but
so
he's
it's Demandred.
Like,
it's Demandred. So Demandred is, in his time, is the second best. Is the second best. Is the second best. Is the second best. I'm like, but this is interesting. In this turning, we have the second best does the right thing and resists. And I'm like, I think that's an interesting comparison between Age of Legends first and second, and the Third Age first and second.
So I mean, just to
easily could have been Demandred and gone right to the dark side.
Yeah, but this is the wheel, the turning of the wheel that gets it right.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and there's also, I think this is where I think you have to start looking at overall arc, right? Someone who thought he was a dragon, but we know from outside knowledge looking in, didn't really think he was the dragon, but he was like, hey, I think I should try to do the prophecies here because I might be. I can channel and I'm strong, and so there's that. Gets captured, gets gentle, gets caged, loses everything, finds some kind of way of feeling, okay, what should I purpose, again, gets used again, does the right thing for the most part, helps Rand, does some stuff that wasn't the best, does stuff for Rand again, helps Rand, fights the shadow, gets captured again by his people that he fled to. So he leaves the White Tower, goes to the Black Tower, with Rand's amnesty, goes back to that place, and now he's captured again. So he's kind of come back to this trough where he's now again captured and forcibly being turned to the shadow. So we're like, okay, how do you get back from this this deep hole you're in now? And he gets captured, and he's like, okay, well, like, this was, I think, I don't know, maybe someone can put this in chat. I think this was days, if not weeks, of torture, and just it was it was not a short period of time. And we always talk about Egwene and what she went through. I mean, Logain's been through a lot, maybe not the same thing as being collared, but this seems close enough in my mind to a similar sort of thing where you're being forcibly being turned to the shadow.
Isn't it 13 Murdral and like 13
Dreadlords? 13 challenge, those
13
that's what you need to turn, but I don't know for how long. Well, we'll just be around.
Just being in a room with 13 Murdral, I mean, that's got to leave a mark on you.
Yeah. They don't even have to be doing anything. It's already bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think like the imprisonment, like having him be captured and confined again, I think it was necessary because it let the other Asha'man have like some big moments, not just like the couple that we've seen as already established, like significant guys, significant players. Now all of a sudden there's this whole group of people that's been empowered here. And the other thing too is, when he was captured the first time, he lost everything. He escaped only because people basically treated him like a dead man. This time he escapes because he has help. And his whole
people fight for him.
People fight for him. His whole ending arc is seeing that there's community, and that people won't only look at you with fear, people will welcome you. And so I think the first crucial step of him not just being like a sort of put upon errand runner, the first step of him like ascending to that heroic seal breaker peak is him having friends who come and help him and let him experience like community again.
Right. No, totally. I have a bunch of slides that I've saved for you, Brad, for that kind of epic moment. But in terms of how does he get there, right? So he escapes, and this is full on action now. A Memory of Light, right? It's a total action book, right? So he escapes, and he right away goes to joins the battle. He's in the thick of the battle. He takes his group of Asha'man, helps the Andorran, Elaine and the Andorran people, army there, and fights the Shadow. And then he's like, well, who better to fight? And I just thought of it now, than the second best channel or person. So he's like, I need to face up Demandre. And I actually thought, this was what, round 3? I think this was round 3. I don't know, in the, because Demandre fought a bunch of people. So it was Gawain, Galad, Logain, then Lan is how I remember it, and someone can correct me in chat. But this was round 3 for Demandre, and he had the fat man, fat man Angreal. That just felt weird saying out loud, little fat man Angreal. It doesn't sound right in my head.
It does.
It doesn't sound as cool when I say it out loud.
Some just stay written.
And Demandre had a stronger ter'angreal than what Logain had, because Logain actually, if you look at the power rankings, was stronger than Demandre. So he had it not been for that, he actually goes and fights Demandre and tries to match up to him, but he can't because he has a stronger ter'angreal, and basically gets defeated, and he flees and is defeated again. So he's like, this is my chance, this is my glory, this is a moment of glory, this is what I need to do. And in that moment when he fails, he's like, it's because that I don't have that ter'angreal. If I can only get that. So we get this hyper focus on this again. What is my purpose here? I need that really powerful thing. And that becomes his Sky Squirrel. Yes, totally. I always thought
it's always been a Buddha.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. Yeah. So he's not focused on getting that, and kind of going to pretty much any length to get that. He's like disobeying orders almost in the last battle, but right at that moment, Androl makes him realize, hey, you need to, there's people dying here. The Camelin refugees are going to die. The Trollocs attacking. We need to go save. So he actually goes, he chooses in that moment, not, the power, but more, I need to help people. That's more important. And he helps those people. Androl does his cool volcano death Wakegate moment, right? And then we see Logain's perspective of that he can't get that ter'angreal from Demandre, and I think what's her name, Egwene, defeats Demandre, and that falls into a pile of rubble. And he's like, oh,
it gets destroyed.
Exactly. So these are 3 slides, Brad, that
sure,
if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, totally.
All right, let's do this.
I am a fool, he thought. He had abandoned that power for what? To save these refugees? People who would spurn him and hate him for what he was. People who looked at him with awe. Logain frowned. These were common people, not like folk from the Black Tower who were accustomed to men who could channel. In that moment, he wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Logain watched with wonder as the people flocked around his Asha'man, weeping for their salvation. Elderly men took Asha'man by the hands, overcome, praising them. Nearby, a youth looked at Logain with admiration. A dozen youths, like 100, not a hint of fear in their eyes. Thank you, the young mother said again. Thank you. The Black Tower protects, Logain heard himself say, always. I will send him to you to be tested when he is of age, the woman promised, holding her son. I would have him join you if he has the talent. The talent. Not the curse, the talent. Light bathed them. He stopped. That beam of light to the north, channeling like none he'd ever felt before, not even at the cleansing. Such Power. It's happening, Gabriel said, stepping up to him. Logain reached to his belt, then took 3 items from his pouch. Discs, half white, half black. The nearby Asha'man turned towards him, pausing and healing and comforting the people. Do it, Gabriel said. Do it, Sealbreaker. Logain snapped the once unbreakable seals, one by one, and dropped the pieces to the ground.
All right, awesome. So, that cool kind of coming, to the point where he has that realization, because he's thinking, I didn't get that cool, awesome thing that would have made me all powerful, but, oh no, actually, I did make the right decision, and these people look up to me, admire me, and that's when he reaches that the halo, the glory moment, and kind of becomes a true leader, where he's fulfilled that arc where he's gotten to, we're seen despair, he's fought it, he's had troubles throughout it, and he finally makes the right decision, and he gets to that point. So, Daniel, looking at it, start to finish, I personally, have a lot more respect for what Brandon did. Even though a lot of people are like, well, all the stuff Andrel did, why couldn't Logain do that? But I think this was just reading this. Thank you, Brad, for reading that for us.
Yeah,
sure.
Going through it, do you think we got the best Logain we could have gotten?
I would say that, real quick, I always have these moments when I read kind of the end of the series, talk about the Fourth Age, and I wonder does anybody in the Fourth Age capture what happened at this spot? Like you can go around the country and see statues and monuments put up. I'm like, does somebody find this spot and say this is where the seals were broken? Is that a Fourth Age thing that ever would have happened? But besides that, I think it's this capturing the whole arc of Logain is he chooses to be a hero. He's not a Ta'veren. He can see Ta'veren. He can see who is pulled into the thread and has to be involved. He chooses to be involved, and he chooses to be the hero majority of the time. But he always comes back to choosing to do the right thing.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's one of my favorite kind of moments. And funny you mentioned, how would this look with respect to the Fourth Age? Because he was the leader of the Black Outer, right? This is not an insignificant kind of thing that happens for him. This is huge. Brad, you always clearly like Logain, having chosen. But kind of revisiting it. How do you feel?
I think what I love so much about the ending is that he isn't the one doing anything cool. And I like Logain so much, and I really hate that this is the cross-media analogy that's stuck in my mind, but this is really his I am Kenough moment, where from the Barbie movie, where he doesn't this is the only thing going on in my polluted brain right now. But he spends the whole end of the series, the whole Memory of Light, looking for, what can I do to be more powerful? What can I do to be the guy? What can I do? I can't believe I wasted my time when I could have been getting stronger, and they like me. They like me. I don't need anything else. I don't need to fulfill the prophecies of the dragon. I am, Logain is who he is. Exactly. Logain is who he is at that point. He doesn't need to do anything incredible. And that's why I think how simple the breaking of the seals is kind of awesome, because it's not anything spectacular that he does. The most spectacular thing that he needed to do was be there, but unfortunately, he looks like Ryan Gosling in my brain now. So there's that.
So this is
it's Logain's dojo. Was it dojo?
Oh yeah, his
Casa de
dojo.
Dojo.
So this is in the Fourth Age. This is what you see at that spot. There's this big statue that looks like this. That's what the stands
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so
There
that's what it looks like there. So
that's incredible.
Just to kind of complete your
Chibi art
canon
was huge
there.
in the Fourth Age.
Yeah, yeah. They were like, hey, that's Logain there with the seal, realizing that he's reached. So Brandon talked about a lot of his journey writing these books, and specifically about Logain and the Black Tower. So this is November 1st, 2013, Brandon Sanderson's blog, The Wheel of Time Retrospective, Memory of Light, The Black Tower. And this is Brandon, talking to us, as Brandon likes to. Perhaps the most controversial decision among Team Jordan that I made with this sequence was to push Logain toward being a darker figure. Following his extended torture, I felt that Logain would emerge as a different person, though he'd always been somewhat dark. Some members of Team Jordan felt he was past that, and I disagreed. Logain was a false dragon, gentle and then healed, head of a group of men going insane who owed loyalty to Rand, but who rarely interacted with him. There is so much going on with this guy that he could have carried an entire series on his own. I wanted him to wrestle with all of this. Logain's life ever since his capture way back when seemed to have been one of being shoved this way than that. He needed to decide for himself what kind of Black Tower he was going to rule, if he was going to earn the honor of men as was promised. And yes, this had not yet happened at the end of the series. Logain, so far as I know, never once let go of power in the series. It was always ripped from his fingers. In this case, he was allowed to choose. And again, it's really, perspective, obviously us having looked at it and gone through the whole arc, this makes, yes, Brandon, that's exactly what you were going for. But when you're actually reading the books, it's maybe not that easy to realize. But
Sure.
and this is the sort of thing that Brandon likes to be ultra kind of uber focused about is character arcs. He thinks he makes character arcs really well or makes sense for him, and he fought for that part being that this is something he needs to choose to do, and he shows that well. So at the end, that's what makes glory so kind of important too, that he chose that.
If a character is not dynamic, there's not much reason to really follow them. And if you really just let him be over all of his stuff that he dealt with early, what do you really follow him for the last part of his arc? You need that. You need that dark, dynamic portion of it's still low, and that's what I think was a good choice.
I'm taking a class on Japanese religion in pop culture right now. So basically, it's just me watching a bunch of Miyazaki movies. It's really one of the best classes I've ever taken.
Darn.
But I know, rats, right? But to me, it's like the same way that Miyazaki writes his quote unquote villains, because none of them are ever truly just bad. They're people who are making difficult decisions, and them having redemptive moments at the end, like you'll find in A Princess Mononoke, without saying who that is, but them having those moments of redemption at the end makes their positive traits feel more earned, because they've had to reshape their way of thinking and coming from that dark place. So I feel like that's kind of the way that Sanderson was insisting on, no, this guy's got to go dark, otherwise his big moment at the end won't have merit. I totally agree.
Yeah. The Funk Lord, Logan's ego drives me a little crazy. He can't even credit Rand with cleansing sight. I mean, not the perfect person and been through a lot. So, he even though he didn't think he was the dragon, he thought he could be.
Yeah.
You don't get there by being modest.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's something you would be like, I wish I did that. Yeah, the cleansing, sure. It's like I wish I did that, right?
Yeah. And it takes a special amount of ego to think you're not the dragon, but believe that you can fake it till you make it. So,
right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go is set to 100 on this guy.
It's like, I don't think I'm the dragon, but if I complete that scavenger hunt,
Right,
I
exactly.
think I should
There's a
get
geocache somewhere
Yeah,
that will give me
exactly.
Kalendor.
All right. So here's my D&D question that I said I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
What is a natural 20?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we could do a whole show on that.
I know.
Let me
right?
explain. This is again no knowledge, but
Yes.
a natural 20 is rolling a pair of dice, and you get 20, and you
Yes.
don't use a talent, or in what I understand is a talent, to get to that 20.
Yeah. So what you need to know is that D&D works with like the normal 6-sided dice and then all the goofy sided ones. There's a 4-sided dice, a 8-sided. The one you roll for most of your stuff is a D20, so a 20-sided dice.
Okay.
Now it's all like a math-based game, right? So you have bonuses. If I roll a 13, plus 6, that's a 19. It's probably going to do what I want. That's like convincing somebody that they should follow my plan, or attacking, or casting a spell. Hitting a nat 20 almost mathematically guarantees you success, because that will usually take you to like a 26 or a 27. And also because it's kind of cool and fun that way, a lot of people will rule that a natural 20 just works automatically. If you're doing damage, you do twice as much damage. So in the trailer, I recognize that if you don't know much about D&D, me saying natural 20 over and over again is just confusing. That when all my players get a natural 20, that's really good for them. That probably means they're going to live through this fight.
Yes.
When I got a natural 20 and you could see the soul leave everyone's body, that means that they might all die. So it's the element of luck in D&D that makes things unpredictable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you do anything with a natural 20?
No.
Okay.
No, well, it depends. There are some real wild and loose games out there that will decide that you can do anything with a nat 20. Daniel, I'm sure we're in accord. A natural 20 doesn't let you become the creator. It doesn't let you seal the Dark One. It's within the limits of what your character can do, and it's sort of up to the discretion of whoever's running the game.
Okay, all right. So the natural 20 is the strongest. Is it the strongest thing you can roll?
Yes, it's the highest you can roll on that dice.
Okay.
So it's a big deal. A natural 20 would be like a peasant picks up a sword in a battle against the Black Knight and rolls to hit the Black Knight. He has no chance of injuring this man.
Yeah.
You know, this peasant doesn't even know how to use this sword.
Yeah.
And swings and happens to find the one point in his armor underneath his arm, and he strikes and he actually hits him.
So David,
it's the only chance he
nat 20.
David and Goliath.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. It's like
that would have been a nat 20.
Yeah, it's like if I went outside right now and did a kickflip, which would be crazy because I have never skateboarded in my life. That would be a real nat 20 event.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Awesome.
And it is one of the most fun moments in the game.
Big
when
time.
A player, you celebrate when your players hit it, and you feel bad when you roll it against them.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Daniel, you're going to confuse me now with the dirty 20. How many other 20s are there? Don't tell me what they are. Just name them. If
those are basically the only ones.
Those are the only two.
Okay.
Those are effectively the only ones.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, now, thank you both for being here. We're getting, kind of past our 2 hour mark.
I have a completely off-topic question, and I haven't watched this wheel for a couple episodes.
Yeah.
So if anybody else has brought this up, I apologize.
Yeah.
But your Juniper line of books, is that an Easter egg for a future Flickerverse show? Is it the Wheel of Tim?
Oh, where does mine? Ah, nice. I like
That's the spin-off. That's the animated
I should
series.
show you what this says. It's always hard to, but I don't know if you can read.
I have one again loose there.
There you go.
Yes.
But you just had it there to where I just came on. The first thing I saw was the Wheel of Tim.
The Wheel of Tim is
I love that.
That is
Someone's got to write that.
That is the Flickerverse version here. But yeah, no, thank you both.
It's like the life of Brian.
I like
Yes,
Nat 20 is
yes.
just how Matt lives his life. That is-
Yes, that's
Yes,
exactly
that's actually
true.
super accurate.
Yeah.
No, I understand it completely now. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, thanks for talking all Logain, diving deep. I hope people had fun. When you're who were watching, or if you're watching later, leave a comment. Let me know if there's something we miss, or if you think Logain now, that Logain was not wasted, because that's one of the things that a lot of people sometimes say, that maybe Logain should have done more, and I think we did a good job in showing this really good arc. We are back next week, and I'm gonna finish off my kind of character review series as far as the TV show goes. We're looking at Matt Cawthon, Patton Fane's. I forget what the words are. Patton Fane's
Best friend.
Best customer.
best
customer,
poorest,
yeah.
best and poorest customer, I think.
I
think
believe so, yeah.
And he did a bunch of interviews, and we'll look at do some season 3 predictions, because we have some news about what he might be doing in season 3 that may not be aligning with what happened in the books. But yeah, that's probably my last in that series. I might do I'm thinking a new, like an Elaine Avienda and maybe Min. That'd be a good one. Just look back at those three in terms of thank you. Is that I am QT Pie? Yep. Okay. Yep. That is best and poorest customer. Thank you. Yes. Daniel Brand come back to teach more about D&D. Yeah, for sure. Oh,
that's
no!
Another
Wow.
12,
oh.
That's another 12-hour live stream right there.
Thank you, Rain, for reminding. Yes, we are. This is a giveaway show. If you're out there and you're watching this and you're like, where's my mug that I won? You should have gotten it, or in the next couple weeks should get it. If you have not, let me know. And I will, and again, if it was me and not Ingrid Hatch, although he did say he gave away all the things that he was planning to give away, so before he went on his hiatus. Someone, I think, asked, how is Innkeeper Hash doing? I spoke to him a week ago or so, and he was we were talking about time and something about March coming up shortly. That's crazy. And I'm like, wait, July's not that far away. That's when he's coming back to WalkCon. But he's enjoying not having to be at the end and finding other things to do. So yeah, exclamation point raffle to enter the giveaway for a Dusty Wheel mug. I'll let that run for a minute.
So, honest, can I just take a moment, and since this is a little bit about D&D, if there's anybody out there that wants to start playing and has always wanted to and always wondered, find a group to play. It is one of the best things in the world to do. It is the most fun. I love seeing new players learn how to play. It is one of my joys in life of seeing those connections get made and those exciting moments. And if you think you might have fun, I guarantee you will. Stick with it if you find the wrong people, because they are out there. But if you find the right group and you find the right players, it is a lot of fun. And I'm just speaking of decades of experience of playing it, it's a whole lot of fun. So.
Yeah,
and don't worry about like not knowing enough about the game. Barrier of entry. I've only been playing D&D now for 4 years.
You're practically running.
hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But it's I found it really useful in my everyday life. Managing all my friends and their crazy choices in the worlds that we play in has helped me manage my real life better. And I think it's just an incredible game to experience that childlike creativity in a way that's accessible to us now as unfortunately grown-ups. But yeah,
Yes.
if you're ever interested about this game, absolutely take the plunge. So fun.
DK Moon, I just watched D&D now. Haven't played since first edition. Yes, I mean,
Oh, wow.
Critical Role, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of
They're the big
premier-
boys.
Yeah,
They're the big
people
boys.
love watching them, and obviously, the other stuff that same people who've done. What's the graphic show on Prime?
Vox Machina.
Yes.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know why I call it graphic, but there's
Yeah, I
blood.
got that.
There's more blood than I thought there would be.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to ask Brad, did you ever look at any of the third edition Wheel of Time role-playing game?
I briefly looked at that. What I looked at more was someone made a 5th edition conversion that's floating around online that I just found as a PDF. And the rules were really interesting, but I think just the nature of our show is there's like short 20 episode arcs in different worlds. And so begging everyone to read and understand the lore of the actual series and then also understand a sort of new system was a bit much. But
Right.
yeah, if you ever want to run a game really specifically in the world of the Wheel of Time, but not have to do too much system learning, that conversion is like awesome. Rules for
That'd be
channeling,
great.
rules for burning out, rules for madness, different classes like for the Gleeman and stuff like that. It's very cool.
Because that third edition game, I have that
yeah.
book. I played back when it came out, and it had its flaws, but it was pretty good. But the problem was only so much of the series had been out when they started when they came out with that book.
Exactly.
So they didn't really truly understand the entire world.
Well, that's it. I mean, most of the rules of the world are only decided after the first book. So
Yeah.
All right, I am going to come in and end this. Not your talk, but the giveaway. But
both
also
are
the
fair.
show.
Both are fair.
I'm gonna close
Sure.
entries here, and I'm gonna pick a winner. Pretty good odds, yes, Zul. Let's see. Should have picked a winner. Did it pick a winner?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, there you go, Brother
Brother
Zachariah.
Zachariah.
You have won
Nice.
a Dusty Wheel mug. I feel like, King Hatch always said this, that I feel like you won before, but I can say with certainty, I'm sure you've won before. So congratulations, you've won a mug. Get in touch with me, and we'll get that to you. I don't know when the next batch of mugs are being made, so in the foreseeable future. All right, the two of you, thank you again. I'm glad you guys know each other now, so you can,
Sure.
look at each other's stuff with D&D and beyond. I don't know, Brad, if there are a number of Wheel of Time conventions that happen throughout the year that have started. More so in the last few years. JordanCon has been going on for more than 10 years now. It's in April. WatCon is in July. MalcuryCon is in Prague this year in September.
Yes.
And so yeah, there's a lot of fun that's had within this community. If you are able to make it to one of those, that's Atlanta for JordanCon, Columbus, Ohio for WatCon. And again, they're a lot of fun if you're all able to make it out to any of those.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun.
For sure. It's been fun, sort of like after like really years of putting the books down and reading other stuff, diving back in and seeing the community that's still here. So yeah, I'd love to make it to one of those eventually. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Daniel, again, thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invite.
Chat. And yes, there is a wonderful group of people that always goes to the bar side and in the Discord and has the after show. So yes, definitely do that. Check out Who's Taking Watch. The fifth episode came out yesterday, and catch Daniel at least once a month on the Knights Who Say Chill. But as we say around here at the Dusty Wheel, good night and smash the black.
Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the two rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So,
Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm not wearing one.
I see Lukomi as something along the lines of a Shadar Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Will Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Pair of like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just
like,
a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi
and
elements.
Just a moment ago,
Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me, and
probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,